Hello, everybody. This is Joshua Hatton with One Nation Under Whiskey podcast. I'm joined here with the wonderful Jessica Rabbit Guillermo Lomas.
Full name.
At Tormore Distillery, and we were with distillery manager Polly Logan. You know what? Here's the thing. So, Polly, I've had this in my head since this morning. A few years back, I was traveling to Edinburgh, and I had stopped in the airport, and we had a server come by, and I wanted to order a beer. And so, what beers do you have? And she had a sort of a thick Polish accent, and she said, well, we've got stout, and we've got something else, and then she said, and then we have a Pale Ale. And I said, Pale Ale, what's a Pale Ale? I said, Pale Ale, it's a Pale, and she points it out, and it said, Pale Ale. But now, between you and Ollie Chilton, you are Pale Ale.
Yep.
Anyway, we're here with Polly Logan, distillery manager. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for taking us around Tormore, which is, for years, I think for many people, kind of felt like the Wonka factory of distilleries that you could just drive by and gaze at and say, boy, I wish I could go in there, but you never could.
But today you've got your golden ticket, so
got the golden ticket, right? So here we are. We're so excited.
Excellent. Oh, well, welcome. Nice to have you on. The sun is shone, which is even better. But we'll have a wee gander about. So what we've got is Tormore was built in the 1950s. First distillery built and to operate after the Second World War and after Prohibition.
Oh, okay.
So that looks like it's a surprise.
No, I'm just processing the math.
All right,
processing the math.
So it took a couple of years to build, obviously, because it's pretty impressive. And there is a completely mad story about how it was actually built and why it was built. But it was built for the Long John Macdonald blend, which at the time was owned by Shenley Industries. Yeah. And the head of that company was a man called Louis Rosenthal. Apparently his office was the top floor of the Empire State Building.
Oh, right.
It's got to be a big statement, really, hasn't it? But so in America, the way to get things done is you get a congressman on board. So he thought the same would be done in the UK. So he involved the most impressive politician that he could find at the time, and the man that he got involved was Brendan Bracken, who was quite unusual because he was an incredibly influential and powerful man, but he always kind of has flown under the radar. So he was Winston Churchill's war secretary, so he was Winston Churchill's right-hand man through Second World War. Yeah, see? Quite impressive.
Pretty impressive connection to go and make.
Yeah.
Well, considering you don't really, like, it wasn't a name I knew.
No.
And, you know, I've studied history. I think I'd like to know, I know who my folk are. But, so Brendan Bracken was also well known for the man who merged the Financial Times and the Financial Papers. So if you're in London and you're driving down Fleet Street, or, let's be honest, you're in an open-top bus going down Fleet Street, and you look up at the Bracken building, which is now where the Financial Times is. That building was done for Brendan Bracken by an architect called Sir Albert Richardson. I don't know if he had his Sir by then or not, but he is now and will forever now be known as Sir Albert Richardson. So an incredibly well-known English architect. So Brendan Bracken got him involved because you're going to build a building, you need an architect, so we're going to get the most prolific one that we can get. So they came up here and they looked at 6 sites across Speyside. This is where it gets even more bizarre, because to choose the site, you obviously have to get a Scottish author involved. Yeah, see, I can see from your face, you're like, what? Because this is madness. Total insanity. So they got Neil Gunn, the famous Scottish author, from Dunbeath, up in Caithness, a scientist and a chauffeur, right? See? Honestly.
This is a pitch for the new series of a weird version of Traitors.
Isn't it?
Right.
So this 3 went around the 6 sites that they had selected in Speyside. That's a mouthful, by the way. And they found a plentiful and good water supply here. And for some reason, they preferred this side of the Spey to the other because of its northern-facing aspect. Who knows? But
It's very important.
Yeah.
I only go to northern-facing distilleries.
Same, right? Same. I'm so glad you said that.
so they decided that here was the one. And I mean, we're really glad that they did because it's a fabulous site.
Yeah.
So we've got our water sources up the back of the site to the right. We'll not gander up there because it's a bit of a mud fest just now, this time of year. But it's the Altna Tormore burn, and that was the one that the scientists declared, apparently just by drinking it, declared it to be of good quality, and of much quantity. So that was it. Then they all stepped away and started building the site. Most of what you see today is what was put in the 50s.
Okay.
So obviously not the malt intake, but our malt intake is here. It's now much more modernised. This
Yeah.
arm moves out, and obviously you take your load of barley in. We produce two distinct types of Tormore. So this site was obviously bought by us from Chivas,
Yeah.
or Pernod. The Chivas recipe was what we adopted, and as part of the deal, we agreed to sell New Make Spirit back to them for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
So we kept that recipe going, which is a wonderful way to learn a distillery. Just keep it going, status quo. It's nice, you'd learn that way. However, we tweak it a little bit when we're doing our own production.
Oh, okay, so spirit for their
Spirit for us,
blends.
spirit for them.
Yeah, got it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
So when we're on spirit for Chivas, they give us the malt.
Yeah.
Well, they sell us the malt, but they give us the malt. So the malt comes in here, currently using Simpson's Iberic.
Okay.
So a mix of Laureate and Sassy.
Okay.
You wanted all the geeks.
Yes,
We'll give you all
I'm
the
ticking
geeks.
these off, and I'm writing a bingo card, and at the end we're going to test Joshua. So
Okay,
that's
nice.
two malt types.
Yeah, remember those? Yeah,
good.
Laureate and
There's
Sassy.
also
Okay.
we've had some Firefox as well.
All right.
Sounds very
I
exciting.
don't know, like, I was talking to somebody the other day about this. When you get to name colours for like paints or like colours for nail varnish or stuff like this, like, there must be a team of people who are like, right, we're going to sit down and, you know, like, we're going to thrash out some ideas. And someone's like Firefox barley, and someone's like, ooh, good one, that's in the keep pile. Like,
Right.
I think in the colours of Tormore for our labels, we'll go for Oompa Loompa Vomit.
Love it.
I'm going to forget this. So, the Instagrammable moment has to be that little Porteous sign there. So it is really noisy in here, but as it was put in the 50s, we've got 8 malt bins. For some reason, they made them about 22 tons because they must have decided that lorries were as big as they were ever going to be, and they were never going to get any bigger. So 8 malt bins, which now we've made down to 4 because a lorry load of malt is now 28 tons, so we have to split it across 2.
Okay.
Okay. So comes in through the intake, up the elevator and into the top of the malt bins.
Okay.
So they're now in pairs. We still have the original wooden running gear that Porteous put in 50, probably in 59.
A wooden gear.
Wooden, yeah. All this wooden running gear here.
Okay.
It's quite unusual to still have it. Most of it has been replaced with metal, but no, it's really nice to still have it. But so we're now reduced to, in reality, we have 4 bins. No longer do we have 8. But we'll head through to the mill. It's very noisy in there. I can only apologise.
Just a quick note to our listeners here. The Porteous mill was so incredibly loud. There's not a single piece of software available on the market that allowed me to clean it up. So we've clipped that audio out. And what you hear coming up next is after we left the milling room at Tormore Distillery.
I swear it gets noisier every time I go in there. So it is a standard Porteous 4-roll mill.
Yeah.
As you can see, when you look at it, it's a little more diminutive than other ones that are trotting round the patch, but it works nonetheless. It takes us about 6 hours to do a grind.
Okay.
You will learn to discover that 6 hours is the magic number here.
Okay.
Always works in 6 hours. Add that to the bingo card.
6 hours.
So that mill that's in there was refurbished in 1965 by Porteous. Obviously, we all know Porteous were the engineering company that outdid themselves because they were so good, they were never needed again to fix them.
Yeah.
But that one is quite little, but we don't know where it came from because obviously it'll be an older machine. We also are yet to find, and we will find it because we do have all the records, but we don't know what they milled with from 59 to 65. Was it that one and it just got refurbished? Was it a different one and then that one got taken in?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't know the answer to that yet, but we will find it.
Okay.
But all the malt obviously heads down in there. We've just installed a new malt weir because when we arrived, the weir that was there was the weir that went in 59, and it was proper Willy Wonka style. It was like little battens and lifts, and it looked like something that, you know, those films that you see on Insta and all the rest of it with all the marble running for ages. It kind of was a bit like that. But we've done that. It also, we don't have a de-stoner here. We have an old-fashioned screen.
Okay.
Which is great. Just don't shake everything to bits, but it's the old-fashioned screen. Everything that gets milled goes down into the floor and then comes back up this elevator and up into the grist hopper. So, I mean, genuinely, if you were going to design a distillery now, you wouldn't design it like this.
Yeah, it's uphill and down dale with everything here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up and down and up and down, and yeah, it's everywhere. And although it's a massive building, we end up with MCCs and stuff down here.
Yeah.
And this is quite a wet room. Not really ideal, but it is what it is.
Are there other opportunities to change this that you see down the road?
There are. It's one of the things that we have on our list is that we would like to change quite a lot of things. Apart from anything else, to make it more of an experience for a visitor. You couldn't take anybody in that mill room. It's so noisy.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have that nice story where this is our malt, do you want to try it? Here's the fractions of our, you know, of our grist and flour and husk. You can't have that conversation there because it's so noisy. So, yeah, absolutely. There's things we would love to tweak.
Yeah.
When we get to do it.
Right.
Depends on a lot of different things at play. We'll head up the stairs to the mash house.
Okay. So now we're on the bottom floor, we're headed upstairs.
There's lots of stairs.
Up the stairs we go. Headed to a mash tun. Oh, you can smell the yeast in the air.
Yeah, it's a really odd setup. So the grist that we've previously milled is obviously headed up into that grist bin.
Yeah.
That would be one thing I'd like to change. We should have a bingo card on the things we'd like to change card. But 10.4 tons of grist into the mash tun with just under 40,000 litres of water at 65 degrees centigrade. Mm-hmm. That is all fairly standard. Mm-hmm. It's a standard full lauter. Perforated plates obviously on the bottom. We still use an underbat to balance it all out. Okay. Quite old school. It doesn't help when I'm pointing at things, doesn't make any difference. But
for the listeners, Polly is pointing at things.
So the wort cooler is just down there. Yeah. So again, it's pumped downstairs before it's then pumped back upstairs. Gravity to there and then pumped beyond. But within the mash tun, standard 3 waters. Second water, we're looking about 74 degrees. Third water, as hot as we can get it, we could be up about 84, 85 degrees. Okay. Third water's then recycled through and for the next mash in. Pretty standard. We're looking for a gravity of about 1063, 64 in our washbacks, which, as you can see, are handily to my left.
Oh,
so these are the original 4 washbacks that would have been built in place because, another interesting fact, big building, big roof. Roof is made of copper.
Do we know why the roof was made of copper?
Because somebody insane thought it was a good idea. In fairness to the copper roof, it has lasted really well, and this is its 65th year.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually lasted really well. Average copper roof lasts between 50 and 60 years, so it's good.
Okay.
Unfortunately, now needs replaced.
Uh-huh.
But
Perfect timing, just as you
yeah,
purchased
exactly.
the distillery.
But I mean, it's thin in bits. It's a bit like a still. It goes thin in wee bits where it gets most wear.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a squirrel moment where I disappeared off over there. Washbacks. So these are the original 4 washbacks. They were built in place because the roof was already apparently on, which is actually a lie. So the original, it's said that the building is 65 years old because they opened in 1960. But because there was apparently, I can only say apparently because I don't know, because despite my appearance, I'm not that old.
It's so ridiculous.
Because there was a bit of a rush and a bit of a race as to who would be the first distillery to start production again of the new side. So there was between here and Glenkeith in Keith.
Oh, yeah.
They started production here before there was a roof on the building. So they started production and just hoped it was going to be a nice autumn winter. But they started production about October 1959. But the roof didn't go on until, I think, over that winter.
Wow.
But they won the race. So that's
race.
the important bit. We won the race.
That's all that matters.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So we've got the 4 washbacks here. So we're looking for 48,800 litres of wort.
Okay.
We pitch yeast just when there's about 3,000 litres, so just a smattering on the bottom.
Okay.
We pitch our yeast in. When we're producing for Chivas, we use standard MG plus. Lovely, nice, basic, really straightforward, high yielding, high performing, good yeast, all creamed. It works really well for us. When we're producing for ourselves, because why would we leave anything the same? We wanted to change it a little bit, so we've gone back kind of 20 years and we've gone to M Pinnacle, which is Mauri's standard distiller's yeast from about 20 years ago.
Okay.
So we did a bit of a trial and we tried M Pinnacle. It really upped the fruity content of the new make spirit, which we loved. We really liked the spirit as it was, but we thought we could maybe play with it a wee bit.
Yeah.
So we really upped the fruity element. We then thought it had lost a little bit of the weight that we wanted to see coming through, and the weight that Sikander was really keen to capture that he got from the older Tormore bottlings that he's got.
Yeah.
So we thought, how do we do that? So spoke to Mauri, a little bit of the knowledge that we've got. So we added in 50% ale yeast.
What was that?
50% ale yeast.
Ale yeast.
So that's the Ollie part of the Polly Ollie.
There
But so we added in some dried ale yeast.
Okay.
So for ourselves, we pitch 50% M Pinnacle, 50% ale yeast, and they're brilliant. They just look like big oxo cubes.
Yeah.
Do you know what an oxo cube
Yes,
is?
I do.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do. So just wondering, because sometimes folk don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But so they just come in and we just pitch straight in. We've discovered it gives us the weight to the new make spirit that we absolutely wanted.
Yeah.
And we're really, really happy with that. What we also did was we do 18 mashes a week when we're producing. So that was the recipe that we got from Chivas. For ourselves, we take it down to 17 and we slightly change the mix of longs to short fermentations. So for 18 mash Chivas production, they did 10 long fermentations and 8 shorts. The longs are sitting just about 100 hours, the shorts about 55 hours.
Okay.
For ourselves, just by dropping 1 mash, it meant we could get 11 long fermentations, and they're slightly longer, so they're closer to 110 hours. And it means then we just have 6 shorts, which are slightly longer, about 60 hours.
Yeah.
So not massively, funnily enough, about 6 hours of a difference.
So very good for those of you playing along at home.
Exactly. So a mash takes 6 hours from mashing in to drafting out.
There you go.
So thankfully the same length of time as it takes for the mill. So that's where we managed to tweak it a little bit, and we got that one extra long fermentation and dropped out. And we've just realised it makes a massive difference to the final spirit here.
So you got the weight with the ale yeast. How does it affect the flavor? You got the fruitiness coming in.
Yeah.
Does it affect the flavor at all?
So it just seems to add that extra dimension to it. So when we first looked at it, the fruity's brilliant, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that spirit at all. We just thought we could get more out of it. And what we didn't want was to lose the essence of Tormore, but we just wanted a wee bit more to it. So we added the ale yeast to see if it would give us just a wee bit more weight, and it did work. Okay. So it just adds a kind of different dimension to it. So instead of it all being top notes, there's just a wee bit more down the bottom as well.
Yep. Great.
Right, we'll walk up these stairs, because then you'll get the best view of Tormore. It is very hot up there.
Okay.
You're in preparation, I like it.
I'm ready.
Scarf removed,
Good.
ready.
Yeah, for the listeners at home, I'm stripping off slowly as we proceed around the building.
Is this where I edit in some Barry White music? Or Marvin Gaye, yeah. All right, now we're going up yet more stairs.
This is
It's
good for the
worth
step
it.
count. It's
Oh
good
my
for
gosh.
birthday.
I promise.
All right. The air is a bit thinner up here.
It's definitely getting hotter. I don't know if the air's...
Woo.
You actually can walk. There's a walkway that runs the whole way
Oh, wow.
on the upper end of the lantern. I'd only say you could do it if you're very fond of heights, because the stair looks like it
Oh,
wobbles
yeah.
quite a bit as it goes up.
Yeah, I'm not very fond of heights.
You're not there.
Yeah, no. Oh, wow. Oh, look at
But
this.
it is a good view, and it is totally worth it.
Oh, wow.
What a view.
And actually, the smell is pretty phenomenal as well.
Smell is fantastic.
And you've got the sun coming in the window as well. It's even more perfect.
That's really stunning.
Please let me know if anybody is dying of heat. I'm terrible. We used to play a competition in one of the previous distilleries I was in, and we used to sit in the still while it was being charged and then start to run it. See who could win the... Always. But, so when the distillery was built in 1960, there was only 4 stills. Those 4 on that side, and these 4 washbacks.
Ah, okay.
In 1974, they decided to expand, and they doubled the size of the distillery. So those 4 stills on that side were added. Thankfully, they fitted, because it was a nice big building. But they thought, we need some more washbacks. There's no room in here.
Right.
So the additional 4 washbacks that were put in 1974 are out the back of this building on top of my boiler house. A word for any budding distillers: if you're going to add in washbacks, don't put them on top of the boiler. So they are out there. Having now read quite a lot about the site and spoken to a huge amount of people around, you know, the bits and pieces that we've learned on site, we face north. So that way is south. So you would think it would get all the nice sunshine and all the nice weather. No, it gets all the prevailing wind. And apparently they had a terrible time with getting those washbacks to actually be warm enough and not freeze. So there'd been a huge amount of... On top of the boiler, you would think it'd be roasting.
Yeah.
But actually, they had a huge problem with freezing and cold, and they've had to do a huge amount of things to that building to make it warmer. So that's all okay. I mean, we're living with a legacy, but those washbacks are sat up on top of there. So there's a further 4 washbacks out there.
Okay.
That's fine. The distillery then trundled along quite nicely until 2011. It had another upgrade, and that was then under the parent who dispose of Pernod. And they increased the size of the distillery just by increasing the amount of washbacks. So there's a further 3 washbacks across in the clock tower building. Now, that's lovely. These ones are a bit like myself, a wee bit shorter, a wee bit more dumpy.
Yeah.
Those ones through there are a bit more like you, a wee bit taller, a wee bit skinnier. The ones out there are kind of in the middle. But we are mashing 18 or 17 mashes a week.
Yeah.
And it's Scotland, so we don't know what the temperature is going to do. So we are looking at what setting temperature we're going to put these washbacks at. So across any week, we have 6 different setting temperatures because we have longs and shorts and we have 3 ton rooms. Welcome to Tormore and the madness that is.
That's real Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Control settings right there.
It is honestly, it's Willy Wonka and some kind of crystal ball down there because, like, we're quite high up here. We do get the weather. We're really lucky in that is the main road out there. So the road is always really well serviced. We've got a fabulous, fabulous man, Callum, who comes and clears our site with snow. But by God, we get it. The first winter we were here, I think we had -28. Couple of pipes froze. This last winter's been really mild to us.
Yeah.
It's only been down at -12. But
Yeah.
Still very cold.
Yeah.
it makes for a very, very entertaining setting temperature conversation alone.
Yeah.
The guys, my process guys, are absolutely fantastic. So all of the process operators that we've got here are new to site.
Yeah.
2 of them are not new to distilling. 3 of them are not new to distilling, but they are new to this site. So they're only, we're probably looking at George and Gary are probably, well, the most experienced operators that we've got. But on site now, they've only been here just over 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's quite a change. But yeah, they do an incredible job trying to watch the weather, see what's happening, and just get those set.
So there's a bit of it's tricky. I don't think that word is doing enough heavy lifting, but incredibly tricky. But it sounds as if there's at least a bit of a rhythm to deal with the trickiness that's been put in front of you.
There absolutely is.
Yeah.
The beauty that we've got is that the guys they're absolutely superb. We've got 2 guys within the 5 process ops that are completely new to distilling. That's Miller. So Fraser, who's the other guy that was in the control room there, he just joined us. So he's just less than a year in.
Yeah.
But just from Granton and Spey, just down the road. So it's absolutely superb. And then we've got James, who's just coming up on 2 years in. But both of them, James was a fabricator within the industry beforehand, but on the processing side, that's just 2 years in now.
Yeah.
And Fraser did something completely different and is now just not even a year in and he's on his own. So the guys are really, really switched on. We've got some fabulous, fabulous guys. It's superb.
Yeah.
But, so back to the process. Remaining our 6 is our magic number. How long do you think a still run takes?
Let me see.
Maybe it's feels like a 6-hour kind of
Feels
room.
like a 6?
Yeah.
6. Yeah, is it 6?
It's 6. I love it.
Yes.
So 1 washback gets split equally across the 4 wash stills. So wash stills in the corner, spirit stills in the middle.
Yeah.
So the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s.
Okay.
So 1 washback, a quarter into number 1. So say that starts at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So we start that one at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
At 10 o'clock, number 2 is ready to go.
Okay.
At 11 o'clock, number 3 is off.
Okay.
And at 12 o'clock, number 4 starts.
Okay.
A wee delay just to stop any big demand on the boiler.
Mm-hmm.
So it just evens out the production. In our wash stills, distillation starts quite happily. It's all totally normal. External heat exchangers.
Mm-hmm.
So it all starts off and it's totally normal. It's all fine. All the vapour then starts to move up the neck of the still and into our cheeky little purifiers.
Yeah, I was going to ask about these, they look like copper buckets at the end of your line arms. So these are purifiers?
Purifiers, but they're kind of stretching the term of purifier. Normally you would expect a purifier to have water around it in some form.
Right.
Whether it's just over the top or if it's a jacket all around it.
Yeah.
These purifiers are simply, exactly as you said, it's a copper bucket with a single baffle plate, copper baffle plate within it. So the vapour moves around, there's about that much space, so what's that, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches at the top, marginally larger at the bottom, maybe only 3-4 inches though. So the vapour will go into the purifier and it will move around that baffle plate. Any vapour that condenses within the purifier will run back into the main body of the still via that pipe on the back,
Yep.
and it will then distill back out again.
Okay.
Makes for a lighter spirit.
Ah.
So any vapour that then
Okay.
gets across into the condenser condenses almost as normal and then runs away through. And as you can see, we've got subcoolers, so they're also on the wash side.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I see that there.
So the subcoolers are there because
Those are the horizontal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Lazy condensers.
Yeah.
You never
can't
heard
blame
of them called that
No,
before?
I've never
Lazy
heard them.
condensers. I don't remember who it was that said that. But they're also pretty small. But the reason that we need them is that we have multi-pass condensers. So those condensers run, and I can only apologise for any engineers that are listening, but one half of them runs with warm water going in the bottom
Okay.
that then passes through all of the tubes and it comes off the top of the condenser very, very hot.
Okay.
So about 95, 96 degrees. It is then put under pressure and it generates steam just by
Right.
putting it under pressure.
Right.
That steam is then used to generate the distillation. So once
Yeah.
it is up and going, it is self-perpetuating.
Got it.
Keeps going. It's really energy efficient. The reason I apologise to engineers is that is only about 2/3, well, no, 1/3 of the story. Because the other side of the condenser runs with condensate in it, which obviously is also incredibly hot water that's come from the steam side.
Right.
So that is much more readily available steam
Okay.
that also feeds into that process.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
TVRs, not the cars, thermal vapor recompression, that is what that is. Not nearly as glamorous as a TVR car, but they work incredibly
Yeah.
well. And it's really well-established technology. It's now been replaced in some distilleries with mechanical vapor recompression, so MVR technology. But I think we'll stick with the TVRs. They work really, really well for us. It's a pretty straightforward concept.
Right.
And the way that it runs is, there's no mechanical moving parts. It is pretty straightforward. We like it. It works.
I noticed all of the stills have sight windows.
Yes.
Usually it's just the wash stills. Is there a reason for that you know of?
I don't know. I hypothesize and just say I think they were drunk and saw 8 and just went 1 each.
Why else?
Well, usually you might get 2 in a wash still and none in a spirit still.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. 4. They would have had 4, sorry, because these wouldn't have been there. But
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what the story is with that.
I like that when they added in the other 4, they were like, no, we'll keep 2. We'll just make
Yeah.
everything match.
Oh, yeah.
Could have gone for the 2 non.
Well, that was in the 70s. That was still the same time that Linkwood were too scared to get rid of any cobwebs because they thought it had something to do with the spirit. So it's a wee bit of a time where they were a
Yeah.
bit scared to change anything.
Yeah.
So fair enough. The low wines collected run in these wonderful Tormore blue tanks that actually today you can't see through the grid flooring. You'll see it when we get down there. But they're all run in under the floor under there. And then obviously the spirit still is very straightforward. Pans inside the spirit still, the exact same process. We haven't seen inside these purifiers yet. We've only been inside the washed ones
Okay.
because for some reason there's no platform next to the spirit still ones. There's beautiful platforms next to the wash still ones. Beautiful.
Yeah.
They're great for standing on. And then next to the spirit still ones, there's not. And I'll be honest, I do get called a witch, but my broomstick is not that good that it's going to hold steady for that long to get those lids off. But there's chat that there's multiple baffle plates in there. I think it's just going to be the one straightforward one again, but I'd love to be proven wrong.
So wild. So just for our listeners here,
Yeah.
we've gone up multiple sets of stairs. We walked past the washbacks, and we're looking down on your 8 stills.
Yeah, we're above the stills.
Yeah. I realized I didn't say that as we were walking up. So, okay. That's all. Just wanted to paint the picture.
Right, we're going to walk down that side. If anybody feels even vaguely queasy, just look at the roof, okay?
Okay.
I only say this because I've now taken a few folk round and I forget that people are not the same as me. I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to be like me, but do you know that way where you think, Oh, yeah, don't look down, it's not great.
All right. Passing a washback.
And the steps are all also slightly different sizes, so...
Just to keep you on your... Literally keep you on your toes.
Yeah. So there's a purifier up close.
Ah.
It's actually quite large.
Yeah.
But you see the top of the condenser is split. So one side is condensate and one side is just warm or hot water.
Yeah. Oh,
so that's how
wild.
that works.
Oh, I've got to get a picture of that.
Yeah, you get a picture of that. And to get anything in or out of this still house, obviously, because I said the roof is copper, we have to take it in that window at the end, which is cast iron.
I was admiring that window from above. It's like all the details in this building, you know, it's an unnecessarily beautiful, well put together window, especially if it's iron and that's a thing you're going to have to move to put things in and out.
It is so true. It is so true. It is unnecessarily beautiful, but thankfully it is. It's that last little one's tiny.
All right. Oh, yeah. That's a small...
Yeah, just really confuses you.
Right. So now we're at the bottom of the mash tuns and headed down. Look at
it is a very pretty still house, though, isn't it?
Gorgeous. It really is. It's like a cathedral.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
This top step is really massive. And then the rest are normal sized. And then you get blinded.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I'm not a vampire right now.
So
it's so much cooler here.
Yeah.
Because the windows are open. Yeah.
But you see the tanks that are underneath at our feet here.
Yeah.
So that's all our low wines and faints tanks.
Ah, okay.
I love it. As we run the spirit side, obviously we collect all the low wines. Mm-hmm. And then on the spirit side, the 4 shots run on a timer. So it's really, we do it for half an hour and then we cut onto spirit. Okay. We do keep the spirit up really quite high. So generally the spirit we've collected is at about 69.5%. Okay. So it needs a wee bit of water added before we then go to fill in. But we resurrected the fill-in store on site here 2023. So nothing had been filled on site since, I want to say 2004. But in my head, I think it's 2006. So that's okay. So we resurrected the fill-in store on site.
Where was it being filled?
Well, it was all going away in tanker because Chivas just take everything away
just down
on
to
tanker
their,
and down to Keith Bond to get filled there.
Got it. Yep.
So yeah, we're there. The other sort of, I don't, it's not a geeky fact. It's a nice fact. But obviously in '74, when they doubled the size of the still house, they had to add on an extra bit of the safe. So at the time, this distillery was a sister distillery with Lafroig, and Lafroig was also getting a bit of a makeover at the time. So that side of the safe is actually Lafroig's old safe. Oh.
That's awesome.
I know, it's cute, isn't it? Pretty cool. So all the spirit stills run in that side of the safe, and all the wash stills run in this side of the safe. So they must have done a wee bit of jiggery-pokery and sorted that all out.
Right.
The way that the stills currently run is all using density meters. So we don't need a guy physically down here, you know, manhandling the safe and checking everything. Although we're a wee bit old-fashioned, we do still like to give you a hydrometer check. So 1 run in a day gets checked, so 1 run in 3. Okay. So we do check them. I thought that was something there, but it's a reflection of somebody's shiny bit. I got squirreled, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's me.
I thought it was somebody there. So, as you can see, the clock tower building, so that's where our other 3 washbacks are. Also, a nice interesting fact about the clock tower building, it's that unnecessary beautiful thing. The clock tower has 96 bells associated with the clock. Okay. 96 bells.
Oh, I'd heard this about the chiming clocks.
So it plays a different Scottish tune every 15 minutes. It's really, really unpopular with the neighbours. We love it. But, yeah. So, it's like some of them are just a few little blasts. Yeah. Others are quite lengthy, you know, talking a minute and a bit long. So yeah, don't imagine at 3 o'clock in the morning if you're in insomnia, you've just managed to go to sleep and that wakes you up. It would be the best thing in the world. Don't know how long it ran for. We've spoken to a few of the guys over the years, and they said it was kind of sporadically on and then off and then on and then off. It's really difficult. It's one of those things where it's quite a niche thing for people to be able to get that to go. One of the parts is currently away trying to get sort of remade, and hopefully we can put it back on again because it is hilarious. It is so funny to hear it, but it's absolute madness. But as we walk up to the stills, you'll get a different smell as well as you walk through the still house. I had somebody here a few weeks ago who was like, I think my nose is broken. I said, why do you think your nose is broken? He was like, well, I got all these different smells as I was coming through, but they were all like distinctly separate. I said, well, yeah, because the stills are an hour behind each other. So this one's 4 hours behind that one. So you do get a different smell as you're going through. Just all at the different parts of the process. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, it's really good. The closer you walk to there, the cooler it gets, but also the better the smells get.
Oh, wow. Still can't get away from that sun. I know,
it's amazing. Yeah. I don't want to get away from it, but it is really, really bright.
So we've got...
I don't know if any of these are actually working today. Oh, they are.
Oh, okay.
So we still can't test everything in the safe. Really, really dirty safe.
So remind me again what your 2 cut points are.
So our first one is on time.
Yeah.
And our second one
is at 69.
It's 61.
Oh, it's 61.
Yeah, 61. And the average across that then is 69.
Got it. Okay.
But on other unnecessary beautiful parts, I'll take you down out the front door because the place was never set up to have visitors. And then there's all these beautiful little parts that you think, why is this here? Because it is, it's just an incredible thing. I love that. I'm actually going to keep that unnecessarily beautiful. I love it. But it's so bizarre that they've put all these little bits in when there was no intention to have a visitor centre. And then you see the main entrance, which is just bonkers.
So Tormore has a nickname being the Pearl of Speyside.
Yeah.
Where does that nickname come from?
So there's a few varying chats on it. One of the main things is that the Speys just down there, right? The river Speys just down the bottom of the hill. And there are freshwater pearl mussel mussels in there. Now, nobody's supposed to know where they are because they're obviously protected and we don't want to say where they are or anything, but that's one of the things that's linked to it. Also, the fact that it's a big white building, so it looks quite pearly.
Checks out, okay.
So I think that's maybe
going downstairs
just adds a bit to it. There's also, for me, there's a little added extra with it. Watch this wee step here.
All right, one more step.
But there's that thing that a pearl is hidden until you dig it out of where it comes from. And I always think it's that really lovely little bit of mystery around it. Yeah. And I think, for me, that's the one that sort of has the most feeling, is that little bit of hidden beauty that's there if you go and look for it.
Right.
And it is an incredibly beautiful site. There's some beautiful things about it, but you wouldn't know until you actually come in and see it.
Yeah.
So this is what we affectionately know as the throne room. For obvious reasons, please take a seat and enjoy the thrones. Go for it.
For those who are listening, the throne room doesn't necessarily mean... I just thought it was you were saying the top room in a toilet room in a fancy room.
No. The throne room has these absolutely crazy, ornate thrones. They are.
What are these wee beasties that are on the edge? They're like griffins.
Yeah. I think there's a story. Behind us is the crest of Long John MacDonald's crest.
Okay.
Now, who did Latin in school? No, me.
No. But I did. I failed it though.
Oh, okay. Omnibus amicus, pretty straightforward.
Carpe diem. I don't know.
Friend to everyone.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Oh, I got the, it's kind of have a teacher's pet half point. I was like, the amicus is the friend bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Omnibus is the,
Omnibus is what EastEnders used to do on a Saturday, on a Sunday afternoon.
On an omnibus.
The omnibus, yeah. So, friend to everyone is what we think that means. Now, my maiden name is MacDonald. Mm-hmm. So I know that this part is the MacDonald clan crest. Mm-hmm. But it has never been a beast's hand before. I've only ever seen a man's hand or an armoured man's hand holding the crucifix. So that is the MacDonald part of it.
Yep.
But that seems to be the same beast that is up the top of here, which we think is possibly a prancing lion, which apparently means honour and valour and bravery and all those big rough tough buffy boy things that they like to talk about. So we think that's what that is. The feet of the chair that you're on also only, he's got little feet, look, he's got like 4 toes.
Yeah.
And these got 4 toes, so I think they are connected.
Ah, okay.
Possibly not, just as, because he's got wings.
Yeah,
your
these
arms
are like
on the
griffin
wings.
wings.
Yeah. He doesn't have wings. But as for the rest of the crest, I don't know if anybody's a Game of Thrones fan. I think this might be House Tully. And then Captain America somehow came to the party. I genuinely don't know about the rest of it. There will be a story somewhere in a crest.
Yeah.
You know, there will definitely be something somewhere, but...
I feel like people have sat here, though, because they've got quite shiny heads. Like, people have sat in these thrones and petted whatever these wee beasties are.
It is pretty cool.
It's just so interesting to have built a distillery that no one's meant to visit.
And you start with this.
Yeah, but you start with this like stunning, welcoming room.
Gorgeous slate floor that's really been thought about. A beautiful vaulted ceiling. This amazing ornate carving around the top cornice, which, I mean, it's Scottish thistles, but we have had several people in, and the person that I trust the most, mainly because he's my dad, but he's an architect, but he thinks this is either an Indian or an African wood that this has been carved from.
Okay.
And all the panelling and the carving on the thistles. So it's not like you've gone and bought it off a shelf. Yeah. It's been absolutely made for this room.
It definitely does give the impression, especially if you've walked up the front here.
Yep, exactly.
Past the lovely curling rink. As you come in, it feels like you are going to be going into, well, like, you know, on the very basic level, distillery is a factory, right? It doesn't feel like you're going to, it feels like you could be going into a cathedral or some sort of, I don't know, stately building or something really fancy.
It's absolutely incredible.
Jess, Polly, and I spent a bit more time in the front foyer of the distillery here, and then we headed on over. We walked through the grounds, which are absolutely gorgeous. I really urge everybody to, if you haven't been to the distillery, just go on the Google machines and check out the distillery. You'll see all the topiaries, the topiaries, basically all of the shrubberies.
We shall say it again to you if you do not appease us.
Well, what is it you want?
We want a shrubbery!
The plants that basically Edward Scissorhands designed into all sorts of birds and bells and, you know, you name it. The grounds are absolutely gorgeous. And manicured and really something to be admired. And then a little later on, we moved over to the warehouse where we met Ollie, the Ollie and the Polly Ollie duo here. So we're going to fast forward over to that where we tasted through a number of casks with Ollie. And here we go. Remind us again, this is a 2022.
2022, so it's the first spirit was filled into our wood.
Okay.
And then we ran out of wood. And when you buy a refill, you don't really know what went in it before. But a lot of it seems to come from Diageo, because obviously they empty a lot of stuff, which probably makes sense. And I was wandering around the warehouse one day, looking at some refill, tutting, going, oh, I've got so much work to do at some point. And then I found this cask, which I will come and open if you come down.
Are you having to push now?
No, only so they can see it.
Oh, right, sorry, I'm standing in the way.
It's, you will see on the side of it, it says what the previous contents were. And what makes me laugh about this particularly is Georgie,
Oh, shit.
our distillery manager on Isla, used to work at Talisker, and she actually has a sister cask, cask end to that one.
Wow.
So it's a cheeky Talisker 1979 with some Tormore 2022 in it.
That's awesome. It's a double T.
Double T. I don't know if...
Tasty.
Double tasty.
No idea if it's going to be smoky or not.
Are you sure?
It's a short one, I can't lose it.
Ollie had a bit of a misadventure with the Valanche last week. Was that just last week?
It was just last week.
Did you lose a Valanche?
It did. They got it back for me. That'll do.
There you go.
Share that between us. It smells more like agave.
Yes, it does.
Shot.
This is 2022. This is 3-year-old spirit.
Not even
yet.
quite. Yeah, two and a half.
Two and a bit.
It's-
So, it was
So this is a refill
yeah.
Probably a couple of more, yeah.
Because this liquid, for the listeners, I mean, this is clear as a bell. It smells of new make.
You get diamonds with less clarity than that.
Yeah. The things you learn from being a really, really small company who accidentally buy a really, really big distillery. Oh, there's not enough wood. Oh, shit.
That's amazing. It's just new make.
Ever so slightly smoky you make.
Yeah, there's just like a little bit of like,
Just an inclination.
yeah, just an inclination of peppery smoke. Wow. I'm just glad you didn't leave the Valanche in the cask.
Not nearly as glad as me. It was actually his face when he did it, because he just looked at me and I went, it's okay. And he went, is it okay though? I went, no, but there's nothing we can do just now, so we'll make it okay.
So, going a bit younger, but the wood's a bit better, so it doesn't taste a bit younger, if that makes all the sense in the world. That one.
Oh, you're rolling the whole cask out.
Oh, he's been practicing.
Look at that. Putting Ollie to work. Just watch
I'm
him
saying
burn.
that, but then I just realised I didn't even need to take it out, because there's nothing above it.
That's right.
So this is our new make, so this is something that we filled in 2023. So the difference between 2022 and 2023 is all the 22 spirit was made by Shivers Brothers, but filled into our wood. And by the end of 2023, we were producing for ourselves, and we changed a couple of small things, which you've probably already said.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've already done that. Good. So the other thing we'd done by the end of 23 is we'd started buying or specifying lots of sherry casks from a couple of different producers. We use a lot of wood from Miguel Martin, and then we use wood from a company called Cask earlier. And specifically, we use quite a bit it's not sherry, it's from Montilla, from a producer called Robles, who's an organic wine producer in Montilla. He's one of the very few producers who grows his own grapes. So in Montilla or in Jerez, they're all buying the must from the cooperatives. And that doesn't really matter who you are, even the really big guys don't own their own grapes. So.
Okay.
Whereas Robles is very small, and Francesco does everything himself, makes amazing wine. And the other thing we asked him to do was to make us a cream wine, so where you blend Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso. And the reasoning was it would allow us to have some more sugars, basically, in the cask to balance things out.
Do you get to, when you ask him to make the cream wine, do you get to specify the ratio of PX to Oloroso?
We didn't on this because, frankly, Francesco, he knows a lot more about winemaking.
Oh, you just trust him to,
exactly.
Okay.
Really good winemaker.
Yeah.
But we are working with, so Cask and Ollie are in their own bodegas, and we work with them on their wine quality for seasoning. But we haven't got any of those casks yet because that's only happened this year, so it'll be another, 18 months to 2 years before we see the wood. And this is American oak. We kind of decided quite early on that we would not entirely but largely focus on American oak, even for sherry.
What's the reasoning behind that?
Is that American influence we were talking about earlier?
Well,
just staying with the American mafia.
Why not?
I think we were chatting about the kind of spirit character, and I think Polly and I both, I don't know if you said this already, but we both kind of get quite similar things. So it's very pear, stone fruit on the new make. And if you write those things down, you think what flavours go with that. You kind of think vanilla probably sounds pretty damn good.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, you could see the sherry just starting to round that out a little bit. Just a wee bit.
The flip side is, well, on pretty much any of the American oak, we don't get a lot of colour, so at the moment we haven't got any super dark
It's overrated.
whiskies.
No one wants that.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. I don't like dark whiskey, no.
I was actually very surprised yesterday. Nobody asked me that.
What, for dark whiskey?
Yeah,
It's because most of the whiskies you had in your shelf are dark, right?
Not all of them, but it happens most of the time. There's inevitably the question about what's your most sherried whiskey? I want that. And genuinely, that never came up yesterday.
Only a new one.
Yeah, it's a little one.
So this is now what we tasted in the ex-Talisker cask and what we tasted in this
Look too little.
is the spirit style for your own malt, not for...
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
Jump big hammer.
No, I think I need a
Buncloop.
buncloth. There was definitely some in here.
Should I pop this back in there?
Yeah.
This is the age-old expertise of the buncloot, which is preferable to a glove any day of the week.
Yeah. So our first ever press visit here, I may not have been able to find a bung that fit the cask. And we didn't have any buncloth back then because we really hadn't started doing very much, and I just started opening casks and thought it was fun. And so I may have had to take a rubber glove. And then I may have forgotten where that cask was.
Somewhere there's a glove.
I did find it eventually.
Yes, it has now been found, unremedied.
Just for a point of difference, because I knew this was here. Obviously, as well as for the new make, we bought some mature stock when we bought the distillery, and the profile itself, when it's filled correctly, is really lovely. And we've got certain parcels of first fill bourbon that's amazing. 99.9% of all the casks we bought were refill or ex-bourbon.
Okay.
There was almost no sherry. Well, there is no sherry or first fill sherry. There's some refill butts, but very much refills. And then the majority was refill, and most of which was filled at a high strength, so filled at 68.5 or thereabouts, so which is what the spirit comes off the stills at. Some was filled at 63.5, and that performs really well. We bottled some. We bottled some for Spirit Speyside last year. So we started a program because the stuff that was filled at 68.5, we kind of struggled, or I struggled with the flavour profile. It was very, it lacked any sweetness. It gone quite peppery and not. It just lacked the fruit really that was inherent in the spirit.
Right.
So we've been reducing the strength. This is the point I should probably shut up because I'm currently fighting the SWA over whether this is legal or not. But they don't listen. They're going to listen to.
Just let me know what I need to edit, Ollie.
Has anybody got a crash helmet?
Yeah, so I've been recently told that what we do is horribly illegal, but we're still going to do it because it's make things taste better. So we've been re-racking, changing the strength, reducing the strength to get better extractions.
Yeah.
And the idea is to bring out that sweetness and encourage the kind of fruity quality that's in Tormore, and that peach tea thing that comes about.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yep.
So with that, we've been re-racking a lot into sherry, into festival bourbon, into virgin oak, Madeira. We started doing some port last year, which there's somewhere in the warehouse, but I don't know where, so we'll have some samples of those later. But this cask is a PX Hoggy, and it is also from Robless.
This is a Hoggy?
Yeah, well, it's 225. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of
hybrid.
A hybrid,
Yeah, because it's the shape of a butt, but obviously not the size of a butt.
Yeah, so they're...
Right, because it's so bulbous in the center.
The beauty is you've got a proper barrel next to it, so you can see the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a 225, and these were essentially used... They'll normally come out of the wine industry, and the sherry industry is using them to basically get the sherry to over 2 years, although mostly they're using for about 5 years, to stick them into the Solera. So because they're trying, their Soleras have to start, like it's not sherry unless it's 2 years or over anyway. So you have to start with 2-year-old wine.
Yep.
So it'll almost certainly had some form of Spanish red wine in it, and then it'll had sherry in it for, these for 5 years. You'll see them dotted around, and then we bought them. But this was used at Robless, but it had Pedro Jimenez. I should stress, the cream one you had earlier, all the wine in that is made with the Pedro Jimenez grape.
Yes.
Yeah, because Montilla is always PX.
Yep.
But this is 2014. So.
Okay. So going on 11.
Yeah.
That's really rich. It's almost like barbecue sauce kind of rich.
Yeah, but again, not big on the colour. Again, it's American oak. We're not. So it's more the textural side, and I find particularly with the cask from Montilla, you get that. Works really well.
I like that a lot.
That's nice. And then add to that is PX. There's just basically a buttload of sugar left in the cask. I mean, not that. Okay, according to the SWA, we don't add anything.
Ollie, you mentioned before that some of the older stock you saw gets this sort of peppery quality, which I've found in some older Tormores as well. Do you know where that came from?
I guess there's two different points there, because there's the 90s stock, which is to me quite a different profile to the post, certainly early 2000s. There seems to be a bit of a change, and we asked Alan Winchester about changes they made when they took it over, and they made some changes to mashing. So there seemed to be kind of a spirit change. We also know through looking through the records that there was a significant yeast change in that they used to use spent yeast up until about 97, which seems to be pretty common for allied domestic distilleries. So I don't know if that, when you're talking about the older stock, I find that has when it's not great, it has a kind of plasticine thing, which is not ideal. Sometimes it's deeply fruity, a little bit like kind of Jura can be. But certainly the early 2000s, 2003, 2004, 2005, it really does lean into the peach tea thing.
Yeah.
And I think after that, the pepperiness I get, I think it's like slightly gone off peppers. I think that's more of a wood issue than it is a spirit issue.
Yeah. I was thinking more, like from my personal experience, more the 90s stock.
Yeah. There's definitely a more savoury element to that stock, and I think my guess would be it's because it was a slightly cloudier wort and essentially not quite as a rich and fruity profile. Chivas definitely wanted a fruity profile for Tormore, which in some ways is probably more in keeping with where it started in 59, 60. It was built to make Yes, been round. It's very much built to make a fruity, soft, light style.
Right. Oh. I warmed up the liquid a little bit.
Is it completely gone?
And that
Yes.
peachiness comes through on the palate.
Yeah, and this stock, so this is all stock we lowered in strength and re-racked, and it does make a massive difference.
Am I allowed to keep that in, Ollie?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make the lower in strength bit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm at war with them. I'm quite happy to publish the fact that this is,
Okay.
It's right. So the reason, the argument from the SWA is that you shouldn't be reducing strength after the maturation has started because it's out of sequence. But historically, Scotch whisky is reducing strength and putting to wood for as long as anyone knows, because it's a classic blending technique, and we would normally all over blend, and then you put back to wood. So I can tell you for absolute free that Edrington do it for quality purposes, White Mackay do it for quality purposes, Diageo do it as a blending process. I've chatted to now, I think I'd say every major blender in Scotch whisky, and I've only found one who said to me they don't do it. So as far as I'm concerned, they need to change the rules, not the other way around.
Okay. Here you go.
Right then.
I'm resembling a womble somewhat now. My pockets are full of bungs.
Shall we go a little bit older?
Pair of boots.
Or...
Wow, that's
a bit older.
changed so much just warming up the liquid a little bit.
Yeah, I took a little sip at the beginning, and now it's like really opening.
It went from like heavy barbecue sweetness to soft peachy peach rings, and wow, really nice.
Right, we'll go around the other side because there's some early 90s stuff.
Would you
really
want?
tasty.
No, thank you.
What was the oldest stock that came with the acquisition?
Very late 70s.
Okay.
There's not a lot of it, so we won't be releasing anything very, very soon. There you go. So only a tad older.
Thank you.
But I can I get to that now?
Yeah, I might need to tilt it this way a wee bit.
Yeah.
It'll be scotched, is it? I can't turn it, sorry.
It's not, it's just...
It's resting.
There you go. So this is a 2012. So also re-rack. But it's a really good example of the difference a Cooper makes rather than just cask type, because obviously we pretty much only ever just talk about sherry, bourbon, and one of the things we found we've done quite a lot of work on is we work with quite specific Coopers. I said mainly from Spain. There are two. We work with a third one now on a couple of other projects who've done some amazing wood for us, which Polly introduced me to, and what's interesting is it's not that they're necessarily better or worse, it's that they have completely different styles of cooperage, and it gives you completely different styles of whiskey. So this is a cream sherry American oak from Miguel Martin.
It's a very hard bung.
They're ridiculous, they're rock hard.
Mad, isn't it? Where's the Valence?
Days since I
Oh,
was
it's behind, so that's okay. I was going to say, do I have to walk around to get it? But no, that's fine.
Find a really big bunk there.
Clink, clink.
Do you think this is something we're going to see increasingly? So you're talking about cream sherries.
Yeah.
I feel like when I started working with whiskey, your whiskey was sherry or bourbon.
Yeah.
And now people are fairly competently coming up, or at least in the world of kind of single cask and people who are into indie bottlings, coming up and saying, well, PX or Oloroso. And there's kind of like a little fizzle for other types of sherry creeping in. Do you think this is just going to continue so that eventually people are like, oh, I only really like Baliac or whatever it is. What did we have yesterday? Or a Montiado or, cream
I hope
sherries.
people won't be so close as to only like one thing. That's a really sad idea.
Yeah.
But I do hope people pay more attention to the infill. The reason we started looking at cream is because of the in the historic resonance with the use of sherry casks. Most sherry casks until 1982 would have been transport casks. They would have been bringing wine into the UK, and if you look at what wine was being drunk, it wasn't Oloroso or Pedro Jimenez, it was cream sherry. I'm pretty sure that Harvey's Bristol Cream is the biggest selling wine, full stop, in the UK. From a purely, like, outside of the kind of history reason that we started looking at it, the other thing that came up is we were chatting with a colleague who kind of specialises in wood, and we were talking about the difference between Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez, and one of the things they said was that, you know, it's the Pedro Jimenez leaves sugars because there's so much sugar in the wine, and that impacts your whiskey more than, say, like if you're looking at a cask like this, it's more about the wood than it is the infill. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With Pedro Jimenez, because it's got that additional sugar, that has an impact. Well, cream, you have that as well. It's just maybe a slightly lower impact.
Yeah, it's a spit and check. We a couple of years ago now, we went to a wine fair that was being run in Edinburgh, but the best stall that we went to was a bunch of guys that brought some sherry. They're called I can't remember how to pronounce the name. It looks like diametrists, one of those words, because of the D. And they're all like quite young producers of sherry, and he ran us through the whole range, and he had obviously a PX and he had an Oloroso, but by far and away the best one there was his cream. And I guess the branding of Harvey's Bristol Cream is probably so strong that you hear cream and you add that in. It was really fun, but there was a bunch of people with us at the table trying it who, when he said, do you want to try a cream sherry, were like, oh no, we don't want a lot of Chiol, because they thought it was going to be like a Bailey's.
They thought it'd be really sweet, and they thought it'd be
well, they thought there was going to be some sort of like cream milk based content. So cream's a bit of a funny name, because when you pour it, everyone's like, oh, it's see-through. Like they're expecting it to look like a Bailey's.
Yeah, I think it's got obviously a lot of issues with it. I find it interesting for a few different reasons. One, I do think those residual sugars really help. We're not original. This isn't new. Not only is it historic, there are producers who are doing this today. Like White & Mackay have been using cream sherry to season casks for years. They just don't call it cream sherry for exactly that reason.
I prefer you've got like a milky cask.
But that, you know, they use a particular blend at Gonzalez Bias, and essentially that's a cream blend. So it's not new. It's just the conversation, really, I think, is the bit that's interesting. But I definitely think it's a conversation worth having, so people understand what the infill's doing. And this cask is interesting because the infill's probably doing less heavy lifting. It's probably more about the wood. So Miguel is, outside of the fact that his casks are fantastically consistent, like, and Polly, you've had more experience than I have. I think out of all the coopers we work with, it's the one where you know what you're going to get. The flavours you can always pick out. I've always said I think you can pick out his wood pretty much just by nose and go, all right, that was filled into Miguel Martin. Oh, ginger, chocolate, got it. But even here, this is American oak. He toasts it, he doesn't char it. You just get essentially a more wood-forward profile.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's just the care he takes over each one is, it's really superior to what you get. I've used JMM as we've known them for years, and you always kind of think, oh, that's fine, it's safe. To the GMM, but
it's quite fun. There's definitely there's a pride that obviously there are a few people making casks, but and sherry casks. But it's definitely a pride. I feel like when you go to distilleries, they're always like, "Oh, this is a Miguel Martin cask," and it's a real wink and nod. I mean, obviously we a couple of years ago also acquired some, and that was really fun to be like, "Oh, we've got like all these distilleries you've been to, and they're like, we're also using those too," and that's really fun to kind of add in. I'd be very proud of telling, and I'm being at distillers and being like, we bought some of those as well.
Well, because the name Miguel Martin seems synonymous with quality. And I don't think the word "seem" is correct. It is synonymous with quality.
It is,
right?
It absolutely is. And I think the more we talk about sherry as well, the better it is, because folk might start drinking it a wee bit more.
Yeah.
That's going to do nothing but help
Yeah,
us.
we're always, like when we talk about sherry. But we, Chris and I also have run a whole bunch of tastings where we've done like a deconstructed, we'll focus on a distillery and then take like a bunch of their casks and put like an example of it. So we did one a couple of Christmases ago of Kilhoman where we did, the Kilhoman PX cask release, and we sent people some PX sherry to have with it, and so that you can actually see the context of consistently having a spirit from the same source and then what the different casks do. We're obviously doing it in quite a reductive way, but it's interesting how often people, when they've had the sherry or something that they probably wouldn't go and buy ever, we really liked that. Like you and I have sold a ton of PX sherry off the back of it, because people then come and tell you months later, we got some PX sherry at the weekend. So in a tiny minuscule drop in the ocean, I am slowly pushing people into it. I think because people, I only associated it really with my granny would have sherry, and she did drink it regularly, but lots of people have sherry that comes out at Christmas. People drink a tiny bit of it, then it goes back in a cupboard, and then it's not really understanding. It goes rancid, but then people, when they pour it again, they're like, sherry tastes disgusting because we poured it and it was disgusting. It doesn't keep like a whiskey would do, or a spirit.
No. I must admit, I did get very excited because I found 2 Christmas cakes that I made at Christmas and forgot about yesterday in my cupboard.
Well, we've got one. We've got a few. Me and Laura just make them. Basically, it was a profession. So.
I just I'm not brave enough to eat them because I can't remember if I made them gluten-free or not. My husband doesn't like fruitcake, so I should have taken some and I could have experimented on you guys.
Danger cake.
So if it's all right with you, I don't know what your time's like, Polly.
I know, I'm just saying I'm probably just going to have to go and save my child.
Okay.
After having failed as being Mother of the Year yesterday.
I'm going to open one more thing in here, and then we might head over to 4 to do completely different types of wood.
Okay.
If that's all right.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
But we'll do this because
do you need?
This cask gets opened all the time. I figure if I keep opening it and keep sampling it, eventually it won't be here anymore, and then I can.
Yeah, that's fair.
We'll tune this bit out, and then we can tell HMRC it had a leak. Where was the leak? The bung. Yeah.
Sound logic.
Yeah, the bung clearly had a leak.
Maybe it's done that.
Clang, clang, does the trolley.
So...
Sorry, it's against my leg, it's okay. It's not going anywhere, it's fine. Clearly not my first rodeo, eh?
So I'm not sure if I probably said earlier, but when we bought the distillery, it didn't have exactly a huge workforce. And 2 of the operators stayed out of the 5, technically. One...
2.5.
2.5, because one stayed, but then he retired with Chivas, and then he came back.
That's nice.
One of the operators stayed, Rod, who's back in warehousing, which is where he started.
That was the tall one of the Benny Hill double.
Yeah.
So Rod started, 33 years ago, 34 years ago?
35 this year.
35 years ago.
Wow.
And his first job was filling casks. And when we were first doing our sample checks, we were chatting about it, and he said, we used to fill these amazing barrels, these first barrels, and they had white painted ends. And I said, did you ever try them? He goes, no, never allowed to try them. So I went into the warehouse and I found this one, which was distilled 1992.
Oh, wow.
So Rod filled this one. And it was one of the best things I got to do was give Rod a sample of whiskey that he filled.
Wow.
Yeah. At that point, about 31 years ago.
So this is first fill bourbon,
33 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is beautiful. Wow. The strength is dropping a little bit, so we need to watch it.
It's a stunning nose.
This is so much more nutty than what we've had. The other ones are much more... I associate Tormore as being quite floral rather than nutty. This is quite peanutty.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think the change in production in the certainly late 90s, early 2000s becomes really apparent the more you go through the stocks. It's probably the best example of people over place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's very
You gotta
cigar
hide that in your
wrappery as
jacket.
well. Like tobacco.
Right.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh, wow. So, did he like it?
He did.
Yeah. He was very excited,
He's
bless
very-
him. Do you want a new bung?
I think we do need
I've got a
gosh.
pocket full.
You sensible.
No, I'm just like a womble, you know this. There's also some bung cloots in this pocket. Not required. I'll deposit these in one of yours.
I was making them into, when we were at the market,
bungs will
they had
travel.
like 5 different sizes. I was making them into like
Yeah.
Christmas trees on the ends of the road because they had like a little tiny like spigot one.
All right, more. Oh, look at this. It's an embarrassment of riches.
I'm taking them and auctioning them off. I make so much money.
These are Tormore bungs. I think what might be good is to close the podcast right here. I think it's probably good. If we're gonna,
Yeah.
because we've got a little over an hour with you. You're headed home. I know we've got more to taste, and I'm very excited
Yeah, no
about
problem.
that. But paleale. Paleale. Oh my gosh.
You've made them Italian as well. That's
I know.
nice.
So
I
good.
just want to know, are you picturing in your head, are you right saying pale ale?
I am saying
Or-
pale ale.
Yeah,
Did I
but-
tell you that story?
Oh no, you've not heard the story, but are you
Oh my
picturing it in your head, or are you just trying to
100%.
make Polly Ollie sound Italian?
It's just, yes.
Bit of both.
It's a little bit of a square peg in a round hole, but
I
I
love
think it
it.
works. I was going through an airport with Sam and Chris some years back, and we were stopped in like a Witherspoon's or whatever. We wanted to get a beer, and we asked the server what they had, and she had like a thick Polish accent. She said, well, we've got stout, we've got this other thing, and we also have paleale. And we couldn't figure out what it was, and she pointed and said pale ale, but paleale.
I love it. I totally
Great.
love it.
Paleale.
It also works.
It does.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just wondering in his head, because I'm going to try and write it down. That's why I asked him how you were spelling it. Did you get to say this?
That's the name of their podcast.
Yeah, paleale.
Paleale podcast.
But seriously, thank you. Thank you both so much, Polly. The tour was fantastic and eye-opening, and just really lovely to be with you on tour, and Ollie for taking us through the warehouse and finishing on this 1992 just absolute cracker of a whiskey. Really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
It is our pleasure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cheers. Let's get some clinks going on.
Is it really bad? I can hear the music.